What a great song. What a great singer. Thank you so much. Everything is holy now. I don't know if you noticed, but for me, there seemed to be a certain extra holiness during this Christmas season. I was thinking about that when I was in Patricia's office this morning getting ready for the service. And I was thinking about what a wonderful world we live in. And I was looking up at her wall. And on her wall, Patricia has a calendar, just one of those monthly calendars that you flip every month, and it's got a picture on it. And hers is a multi-faith calendar. And so December was up, and I was seated, and I looked over, and I saw December, and I thought about the service. I looked over, and I've seen it, gosh, many, many times this month. I looked over, I saw it again, and I thought, well, what is that? I wonder if that's what I think it is. And so I walked over, and I looked at it very closely, and for the month of December, it was a Mayan calendar. And I thought, I'm sure glad the world didn't come to an end. And I should have been suspicious of the calendar because it only had 21 days on it. So one of the questions that I've heard a lot this morning as people were greeting each other out in the lobby or between services is, how was your Christmas? How was your Christmas? How was your Christmas? You have a good Christmas? Yeah. How many of you had more than one Christmas celebration? Because I've talked to a lot. Look at this. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of you, so it went so well you decided to have more than one. You know, Christmas was just so special for me this year. As I was looking at the specialness of the holiness of this season, a couple of things jumped out at me. First was the candlelighting service. I don't know why it just touched me deeper than it has touched me before. It was a very, very sacred and holy time for me, and I'm sure for many of you. And perhaps one of the best times for me in these candlelighting services, and I've been to about 38 years I've been doing these now. But this one, you know, when I got in my truck to head home, and it was, I don't know, after 11:15, 11:30, and you're driving along, and the clock just moves past midnight. You go from Christmas Eve to Christmas. And what a sacred time that is. And driving along, looking at all the lights on the houses and everything, and to be alone there and just to really become aware of my sacredness, the reawakening and expressing of the Christ within me, which was our focus for the candlelighting service. And then Christmas Day came. My wife and I go spend the night, Christmas Eve night, at my daughter and son-in-law and grandson's house, and 5-year-old grandson, as most of you know. And so, I don't know, I got to bed about 1 in the morning, and about 7 in the morning, this little pajama-clad body came and said, Grandpa, it's time to get up. And so it was time to get up, and we were waiting for Uncle Scott. Uncle Scott was supposed to be there at 7 in the morning. So we go and sit, and here's this tree with these gifts all around it and everything, and Dorian, my grandson, sitting there and just looking at the gifts, and 7 o'clock, there's no Uncle Scott. And 7:15, there's no Uncle Scott. And 7:30, there's no Uncle Scott. All these phones start coming out, and we start texting to Uncle Scott. Where are you, Uncle Scott? Well, 8 o'clock came, and there's no Uncle Scott. And about, 8:15, Uncle Scott arrived. But in the meantime, Dorian just sat there, and he just read books in front of the gifts, just waiting patiently for his Uncle Scott. And then once Uncle Scott arrived, it was chaos, pure, joyous chaos. And another memory that I have, though, of Christmas morning was Dorian had one special gift that he really, really wanted. And it was a Mega Bloks, some kind of Zoid thing. And being his grandparents, we were tasked with doing that. Well, one thing you should never do is let grandparents loose in a toy store because, we went all over the place, and we finally found the mega blocks from Zoid sword. Some of you know this. So Dorian got to that, and he started opening the present, and he could see the figure on the side. His eyes just lit up, and he got so excited, and he opened up the rest of the way, and his eyes just went down, and little tears started forming. And he said, "It's the wrong one." Our hearts were broken. And he very just shuffled off in his little jammies and went into the kitchen and got a Kleenex and was wiping the tears out of his eyes. And the right one arrived on Friday, so so it was sort of a sad time, but it was just such a joy-filled time. Also, I'm really aware. Joel sang it, everything is a miracle now. I've just really become aware of the idea of miracles, the idea of our mission statement where we awaken and express the Christ nature in ourselves, our families, our community, in the world. And I was thinking about Christmas, and no matter what happened as far as gifts under the trees, it was the love, getting the whole family together. We had a person that had never had Christmas with us before. And she had led a really, really tough life. And to have her there, we didn't know how it would go over. We found that her thing was camouflage and pink. And I'll tell you, you can find a lot of pink camouflage around this area. And we were able to get her a lot of pink camouflage gifts. And she said afterwards, it was the best Christmas that she had ever had in her whole life. And so you think of the love of having the friends and the family there with you during Christmas. For a brief moment, for that day of Christmas, for me anyway, I never thought about such things as fiscal cliffs or, health insurance or conflict in the world. For that day, there was no TV, there was no radio, there was just love and joy and chaos. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Well, as I move into my talk, I want to give you a preface to my talk. As I said, I've been really thinking a lot about miracles lately. And many of you know that I have recently finished the workbook in A Course in Miracles. I was delighted when I finished with it so that I could put it away, because I do not recommend this book to anybody, just so that you know that. For those of you who are Course in Miracles fans, I find this book to be deeply inspiring, deeply moving. It makes me go to depths that I have never experienced before in my life, and it is deeply irritating. And it has me examine things that I really don't want to examine. So I was delighted when I could put this book away. And I did. I put it on my bookshelf, and it was facing sort of like this, and these little things are all little Post-it notes that were of importance to me when I went through this. It's 1 year study. It's a 1 year study. It took me 3 years to get through it. And this was my third time. So, I put it on the bookshelf and just had it stare at me. Then I kept getting these little things about miracles. One day this idea came to me about miracles, that I needed to look at the whole concept of a miracle. And I said, well, that's fine, but I'm through with that book now, and I'm not going to get into it again, ever. And I'll just leave it on my bookshelf. So I didn't open it. And then another thing came up with me about miracles, and I said, well, that's fine, but I'm not going to look in that book. A third time it came to me. And I finally convinced myself that I was never going to open that book again. And then the planning for Christmas Eve started, for the Christmas Eve candle lighting service. And Patricia, in our planning meeting, was talking about what she wanted to do this Christmas Eve. And, Eileen and I know, we've been through Christmas Eve many times here, that we were going to be reading Scripture on Christmas Eve, and everything would be as per usual. Well, Patricia came back to us and said, Eileen, you're reading the Christmas story out of the book of Luke. And I thought, well, that's good. She can read that, and then I'll read something out of one of the other books. And she said, Bob, you're going to read from the Course in Miracles. Lesson 303, which is a really neat lesson. And then she said, and Bukeka has written a song, especially for that night, and it's from A Course in Miracles. It's from the lesson that you're reading. So my resistance ended, and I went and picked up the book, and I said, okay, this one section, this workbook section, I've been through it, and maybe it's time I got into another section, the textbook. And so I started doing that. So I'll come back to that in a minute. I just wanted to do a little preface for this talk. But today I want to share a word with you, a word that has great significance, especially this time of year, a word that you probably use thousands and thousands of times every day, and a word that you've heard so often you're probably not even aware of it. But it's a word that if we use it in a spiritual context, can open the door for life-changing events. It's sort of a word that is a pause. A pause. December 30th is a pause. This day is a pause. We're between Christmas and New Year. So this is a day when we just take the breath and get ready for what lies ahead for us. This word does the same thing. And the word is and. A-N-D. And. Very powerful word. How many of you have ever used the word and? I learned today from Terry that in sign language there are 3 versions of the word and why don't you just do all 3 so that everybody can see there's that version, and then there's this version, and then there's this version of and she said we're going to sort of cover all 3 of them today as we move through this talk. Going back to my grandson for a moment, my daughter called me yesterday and said, well, what are you going to talk about, Dad? And I said, I'm going to talk about and. And she said, are you going to mention door in it? And I said, well, I always mention door in all my talks. But one of my greatest experiences with having a young child in my life, a grandchild in my life, is I can sit and talk about life with him. And to get the perspective of a 5-year-old about life. Have any of you ever done that? I mean, it is so pure. It is so powerful. It is so miraculous. What happens when we get older? I don't know why my family got me a grumpy t-shirt, but, something happens. We lose some of that as we get older. We say that, life happens. Life happens. And we become anxious about things like the fiscal cliff, and things like health insurance, and things like conflict within our family and in our world. We go through challenges in our life. We look for directions. We wonder about these things. How do we experience health and wholeness in our life? How do we experience more abundance in our life? How do we get more love in our life? And, if I were to ask Dor how we get more love in our life, he'd just say, hug people. Just hug people. It's so simple. Everywhere, everything is a miracle. Absolutely everything. We wonder about being laid off. We're concerned about retirement. We're worried about being alone. And then you come to a place like Unity. And you come into Unity, and we talk so much about the power of positive thinking that you think you're never supposed to have a negative thought, right? Any of you ever? I had one once, and then I got into Unity. So, aren't we supposed to be positive and optimistic in absolutely everything that we do? And there's so many pessimists in the world today. And I learned something. I read this the other day, that a pessimist has a particular blood type. Did you know that? That you can actually tell a pessimist by their blood type? Yeah, it's B negative. So we are here to be the optimists. But I want to share something with you. Let me say that it's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be worried. It's okay to have feelings of doubt and concern. It really is okay to have these feelings. If you follow it up with our sacred word for today, I'm going to ask that we put the word up on the screen. Okay, notice we got ... A-N-D ... This is going to be really important. In your bulletin, there's a section for notes, or there's pads in the pew in front of you. You may want to pull that out, because I'm going to ask that you take this home with you today. ... A-N-D ... And so your assignment as we move through this service today, we're going to look at the first three dots, the one to the left of the and. And I want you to think of something in your life that is worrisome to you right now, something that you would like to move off of, move forward with, but it's worrisome to you at this very moment. And I would like you to take that anxiety, that worry, that fear, if you would, and to take it and write it down on the left side of the A and D. You know, maybe on your first three dots you have something like, well, I overspent at Christmas and I'm really worried how I'm going to pay that off. Or I've been laid off and I'm really worried about where to go. Or I'm not feeling well and I don't know what to do. Or maybe I'm scared and I don't know where to turn. It's okay to have those feelings. Just write that down in front of the A and D. And I've got time, so take your time. And when you're done, just look up. You got it? You don't have to share this with anybody else. This is yours, just yours. But it's really important. So you take that, the left side of the A and D. A and D is your link to miracles. It's your absolute link to miracles. It's the breath you take when you're ready to turn your life around. It's the pause between Christmas and New Year's. So, you know, what is a miracle? How do they happen? Well, as I was thinking about miracles and I was writing this talk, this book jumped out at me. And I said, okay. So I just opened it up. And very strangely, coincidentally, it opened to these words. I don't know how this happened. But I want to share some of these words with you about miracles. So you've got your worry statement, your anxiety statement written out. You've got A and D. We're going to move into the miracle portion of this. And the Course in Miracles says, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. That is such a powerful statement. I always thought miracles were harder for me to manifest than for other people to manifest. It's really interesting, between services today, a lot of people were telling their miracle stories out in the lobby or downstairs. And as I listened to them, I said, oh yeah, that's easy for you to do, but there is no order of difficulty in miracles. All expressions of love are maximal. One is not harder or bigger than another. It goes on to say, miracles are natural. They're natural expressions of love. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Everyone has a right to miracles. Miracles are all expressions of love, and they bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. They bring more love to the giver and the receiver. And then it goes on to say prayer is the medium of miracles. So, we're going to look at how to manifest miracles today. We've got our concern, our worry, our anxiety. We have the pause, the A and D. And now I want you to write the words, this I believe. This I believe. And now look at your concern, your anxiety, and write a statement of truth right after the this I believe. For example, this I believe, God's wisdom guides me to make perfect and right decisions. This I believe, God's perfect life brings me wholeness. This I believe, God is the source of all my good. This I believe, God is my help in every need. So let me try some of these on for size. I'll go back some of the statements I've used earlier. I've been laid off. I don't know where to go. And this I believe, God is guiding me to my perfect and right employment. You notice the statement after the and has more power to it? It does. It's sort of like the first part just sort of trails off. And this I believe. I'm having surgery. I'm scared. And this I believe. God is guiding every hand, every decision being made by my surgical team. I know a doctor, cardiac surgeon out of Duke University, and before he performs any surgery, he pulls his team together and he says, "This I believe that God is guiding our hands as we go forth into this surgery." Wouldn't you like a surgeon like that? Okay, you've got your paper in front of you, written out your concern, your and then the "this I believe" statement. Did you find it hard to write out the "this I believe," the statement? You know, I did. I really did, because I'm not sure I believe it. I want to believe it, but I'm not sure I do. So as I was thinking about this, I was led to another book, this book, and I was read to a passage in it found in Mark chapter 9. And it's a story about a man whose son is in need of healing. You may remember this story. The son was rolling on the ground, gnashing his teeth, foaming at the mouth, and he had this condition for a long time, and they have tried everything to cure him. So this man takes his son to Jesus, and he says, "Can you heal my son? Can you heal my son?" And Jesus says, "If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." All things are possible to him that believeth. And then the next line is the important one. The next line is the one that spoke to me. Patricia talked about the throwaway lines in the Bible last week. Don't throw this line away. It's really powerful. Jesus said, "If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." And the father said, with tears in his eyes, he said, "I believe. Help thou mine unbelief." I believe. Help thou mine unbelief. So if you are having trouble believing the statement that you wrote, just put the words there. I believe. Help thou mine unbelief. What I'd really like you to do is to take this ... and and just take it home with you. Put it on your refrigerator, and I know a lot of refrigerators no longer will accept magnets. Magnets don't work. Duct tape does. Put it somewhere where you will see it. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Just put it someplace so it's always in front of you. So if you're going through an experience, you can say, "You know, I am really worried about this. And this I believe, that God is the source of all good." Whatever statement, whatever powerful statement of truth fits in with that worry or that anxiety. No, so I said I started my talk with a preface. And my talk in and of itself is a preface. It's a preface to some very powerful things that are going to be happening as we move into this week. When you're working with the left-hand side of this and you're really ready to let things go, one of the most powerful things you can do is to have Burning Bowl. And we're having Burning Bowl here tomorrow night. This is a time when you can take something and you can release it, something that no longer serves you. You can just let it go. You can put it into that flame and let that flame of God just heal that situation. So I invite you to come to the Burning Bowl tomorrow night, 7 o'clock here in the sanctuary. And then pause during the week. Just take the breath and do the and. And then next Sunday, come. Because next Sunday we set our intention for the new year. We take the white stones, it's our white stone service, and you write out your intention for what you are going to be focusing on for this new year. It's two of the most powerful experiences that you can ever have in your life. And I'm saying this not as a promotion, but it's true. It's going to take you deeper and deeper into your spiritual awareness and into your spiritual journey than you have gone before. You know, the world did not come to an end this past week as predicted. But the world as we know it has. This I believe. It's time to move forward, living the empowered life. During 2012, we talked about discovering the Christ within you, and friends, that is not enough. It's time to move forward, living that life. Let's see what's on the other side of your and statement this coming year. You know, I mentioned the Course in Miracles says that prayer is the primary path to miracles. So I want to close with a prayer. And coincidentally, I want to close with the daily word for today because I found it to be a very powerful prayer. So I invite you just to take that breath. Just to breathe deeply. Close your eyes. Indwelling Spirit, endow me with your grace. Indwelling Spirit of God, shine through my eyes. Make them soft with kindness, warm with compassion, tender with forgiveness. Let no impatience or condemnation cloud my sight. Let my being radiate contentment, joy, and happiness. Let me shine so that the divine shines through me. Indwelling Spirit, enrich my voice. Imbue it with healing mellowness that calms troubled waters. Help me to speak every word in a clear, loving, and sincere manner. Let me listen with patience and understanding. Indwelling Spirit, endow me with your grace. Let me move through life with wisdom. Let me be thoughtful of others, of their needs, of their dignity, and of their rights. Indwelling Spirit, let us create a world full of joy and love and beauty. This I believe. This I believe. And it is so. Amen. God bless you.